Hi everybody, I'm Megan Cassidy, I'm a reporter with Forbes and Forbes Women, and I'm glad to be here today.
So hi, I'm Veronica Sansa. I'm the founder of InSpark, which is an e-commerce technology company, and I'm also one of the co-founders of the Women Accelerator and Women in Wireless. WIM stands for Women Innovate Mobile, and it's the first accelerator for women-run mobile ventures. Woo! Yeah. So
I'm Susan McPherson. I'm a senior vice president here, and I also help run our corporate responsibility practice as well as our marketing.
Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Hogue. I work for Nielsen. I oversee a part of Nielsen's digital business that supports our biggest media conglomerates and network accounts. So where is content going across all sorts of different screens, and what are consumers doing on those screens?
What does mobile mean to you?
people, I think of mobile as its own platform and its own way to communicate. And it is unique, but it should be part of like an overall thesis of how you consume content or how you interact with people.
So if you look at television consumption habits, it's still, and people forget this, but people still gather in a room and watch their TV programs together. But the phone is so personal, and it's not, increasingly, we've seen that no one shares that device, right? So when you have curated in terms of content on that device is so much about you, increasingly you see that it becomes so much about me and then so much about in the moment. You know, what are your needs right now, which is different from who you might be as a consumer of content or a user of that device tomorrow. As a content sort of in a technology community, you could help the consumer by curating more of those experiences, right?
But you just said something that was so interesting to me. You said, what do I need right now? And in terms of developing for the whole world, right? Everyone needs such different things.
So we've seen in certain markets, like in India and certain parts of Africa, where people are actually bypassing PCs in terms of technology adoption, and so they're earlier adopters of mobile technology and smartphone acquisition than we see in other markets. And we did a study in Brazil years ago where smartphone penetration rates in Brazil were skyrocketing, and we were trying to understand, you know, what are these people doing? What do their data plans look like? How are they paying for this? And we realized culturally it was like carrying a Fendi bag or something. Like everyone had to have the most expensive device, but they couldn't necessarily always afford the data plan to go along with it. Adoption rates aren't necessarily the best KPI to really understanding what needs that device is servicing in that market. And then, you know, you can't look at a market like India or, you know, Africa and make sort of broad assumptions. But I mean, we do see smartphone adoption is increasing.
We see a lot in the agricultural space. There's something called the Cocoa Link, which actually enables farmers to not have to leave the farm to go to their computer and upload information and actually be able to report back immediately. I mean, it's something as simple as that. I mean, these are just little smidgens of opportunity.
It's also like one of the companies that applied to WIM deals with tracking micropayments. So what they're doing is, so if you're doing microloans, you're borrowing $100 to start your small business in a developing country. Well, how do you establish credit that you actually paid it back? So they're using phones to kind of, I paid you, can you confirm, using text messaging, and then kind of building that database so that people can establish credit, you know, that they're actually paying back their loans and then can get larger amounts of credit. So they're actually, in developing countries, making a tremendous difference, so much so that people are prioritizing them over shoes.
It makes me think about like who we're developing for. Veronica, what do you think? Are we developing? Are we speaking to the right audience of consumers?
You know, for us, it's really, you know, just to keep your imagination open and look at how, you know, people are interacting with devices, interacting with real-world experiences, and how mobile can be not only another consumption channel, but also a bridge between the portability and you know, data that they're consuming or experiences they're having digitally. So you have people like, you know, ShopKeep, who are basically using tablets as a way to replace the point of sale system. So like before, you'd spend, you know, thousands of dollars on your point of sale system, and if you want to know how your little store was doing, you would have to call your store and be like, hey, how are my sales? And now tablets are there, and they're paying, you know, whatever it costs for an iPad these days, and then $20 a month, and they have their cash register on their tablet. They can see how their sales are doing. It just completely revolutionizes it. So
there's a lot of stereotypes around who is buying these devices, right? That it's, you know, high income people, Caucasian people. I mean, we think about millennials and what are like the young kids doing, and I hear this over and over again, and I just don't think the data really
That's
show
really
at all.
interesting.
And Nielsen data has shown that there's actually a really low penetration of Caucasian women who are acquiring new smartphone devices. And actually you see more growth in terms of those new purchases of ethnic women in the US. And I don't think people necessarily think like I'm developing content or features and functionality for that type of consumer, right?
So given all of this limitless consumers, right, to buy these things, what do you think the future is?
Well, I mean, on a broad term, I see it as a democratization because it's how we work, it's how we communicate, and if everyone has them, it's going to level the playing. At least I hope.
I think it's your life personalized in the sense that, online your life is already personalized. So imagine now you're walking into stores or you're, just walking into a cafe or a restaurant, and now you have that same experience. Oh, I know you like fish or you like chicken. This is what I especially like.
And we hear over and over again, like you just said, like, well, that's creepy. Like, Yahoo knows that I was just looking at this, and then I'm really fascinated in the subject of, where are those privacy boundaries and those targeting boundaries from a consumer side?
When do you think the difference between the small web, which we think of like mobile, and the big web, when do you think that goes away?
I don't necessarily think that there is a difference between, let's say, the small web or the big web. I just think you're accessing content from different channels. So you may not purchase a product from your phone, but you may do research in the store. It doesn't mean that the same site that it serves both of those needs. It's just a different behavior. I just think of it as a different reference point, not necessarily a different internet.
It was a tweet that I actually read a while back that was saying, I don't care if you have an app, I just want you to have a website that works well when I go online in my mobile.
But it's astounding the time spent on apps versus a mobile site. And I think it's just a function of where priorities have been, right? I mean, there was, for a while, we were talking about like everyone was a little app crazy. And you see that.
There's certain things you're going to want to do on your app, the same way you tend to use Word for certain things or PowerPoint for certain things.
I'd love to hear kind of what your ideas are for maybe what's next. What else is there left to conquer?
There's going to be a continuous outflow of social good applications because it's going to be that much easier to donate. It's going to be that much easier to take action on something.
There's obviously a lot of security concerns right now around NFC and mobile wallets and converting all your cards and your wallet and even your ID onto a mobile device. So where do you see the consumer fitting in, being able to accept that down the line?
I think with any kind of privacy issues, it's a lot of it's about education. Where the girl's at, was taking public information and basically helping men find where the women are in bars, and like everyone freaked out, but like they're the ones who are checking in and tweeting it and putting it on Facebook. We had to teach people not to click on links from people they didn't know. We had to teach people about phishing and about spam and about all these different things. And so I think now kind of the next wave of consumer education has to be around mobile devices and storing your credit card information and your passwords and how you send it and all of that stuff.
Where are you all going for, where are the four of you going for your information on what's the newest, hottest mobile app? Not necessarily.
I read her tweets.
But that's such an interesting example, right? And I think I mentioned it a couple of times. I actually think it's kind of a problem because where do you learn about apps? There isn't a really great way, aside from word of mouth.
It's very personal.
Yeah.
Word of mouth is a very reliable source. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like the oldest way that people were discovering things, and now like internet and mobile and everything just
Right.
makes it more efficient.
Yeah, but if you think about like, you want your app to be out there, that's kind of it can be a slow burn if you're a startup, right? So it's surprising to me, I think, in the digital world that we live in, that's the way that something like an app would take off. I think it'll be interesting to see how, smaller apps become big, in addition to word of mouth, but what are those sort of trends that help people adopt?
And I also have to give a big shout out to Joyce Sullivan if you don't. Everyone doesn't know Joyce already. So Joyce submitted a program and had a panel at South by Southwest. And she has the marvelous distinction. She put together the top, I want to say, social media experts in the financial services industry. And she put a panel together. And she was asked by South by Southwest if she would please put a man on the panel. So
I found a very nice way. I didn't say no. I said, let me get back to you. And then I told everybody, I don't even sign your contract. You should have said, I couldn't find any.
There, and just to thank everyone for your support and encouragement and enthusiasm. Because I think so many people in this room who are doing amazing things, and what keeps all of us going is that you've got a great community, cheering you on. And Susan, more than anything, such a tremendous supporter and connector and bringing people together. So thank you so much to you and Fenton for being tonight.
Thank you. Enjoy. There's lots of food, there's wine, stay, for a while.
We have new furniture, use it, people.
What is your key takeaway from this evening?
I think that mobile payments are the future, right? And so I think that it's a matter of all the different companies who have their own technology coming together and working with retailers to make it accessible and make it work.
I think what's most interesting to me is not just the speed at which mobile is moving the market, but mobile is really forcing industries like financial services to realize they must move more quickly than perhaps they'd like to, because the whole world is changing so fast. They're highly regulated, so they just can't use a lot of these social media technologies. And the time is really now to do it. You've got an employee base with tools and technologies that far exceed their employers. This is an incredible opportunity for people to step up and be leaders and really get to be known and help change an industry. Well, the way to embrace the technology, I think, first is to understand what the regulations are. Right now, many firms, they just tell their employees, you just can't do it. As soon as you prohibit anybody from doing anything, you force people underground. It's just kind of a natural thing. So I think the thing to do is to get the education going in these firms. I think that maybe not so much the most surprising, but I think encouraging is to see the level of creativity and imagination and drive with people who are starting their own companies, and that you can be two people with a laptop and you can be changing the world. So I'm very encouraged by that. I'm thrilled to be a mentor for the Women Accelerator program. I mean, Fenton's a great sponsor and helper with us. So I think you're going to see great things happening in the next couple of months in this space, particularly around mobile.
I am the managing director and one of the founders of Women Innovate Mobile, which is the first accelerator program for women-founded tech ventures focused on mobile technology.
And tell me that in English. Excellent. So what are the goals of Women Innovation Mobile, or Innovate Mobile?
The goal is to take really promising startups and help them connect with mentors and networks so they can scale their business, find funding, and be more successful.
And why now?
Mobile's hot. There's a lot of women entrepreneurs out there, and it is an untapped market.
So how do people get in touch with you if they want to join or submit applications?
Through our website, www.womeninnovatemobile.com.
And what were your takeaways from tonight?
Mobile affects all of us, and it's only going to affect all of us more and more and more.
What your takeaways are this evening?
There's a lot going on in mobile, and we need to look beyond the App Store. We need to talk to people. We need to discover. We need to look and see what's going on outside of the developed world, because in the developing world, that's where things are happening.
Excellent. Thank you very much for coming to Fenton tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And here at this event, I walked into the room and most of the people around me were women tech entrepreneurs. And I turn around and somebody's got a tech startup and another person has a tech startup and this one's a CTO. And it was really fantastic to see all of us, sort of gathered together in one place. And it was really exciting to see all this energy around nurturing more women in tech startups and more women entrepreneurs. Well, it was just really exciting to talk about where the future of mobile is going. I mean, it's really a huge space, and that it's still fairly new technology. When you think about it, smartphones have only been around for really a couple of years. They've kind of transformed our lives in all these crazy ways, but it's still fairly new. We're still kind of in the early stages of seeing what's possible. So we had a very interesting discussion about what are some of the future trends in mobile, talking about things like, or even the current trends that are kind of starting to change the face of mobile, like near-field communications and augmented reality and projectors in cell phones and payment processing over cell phones and all these sort of things.